of you, we're definitely gonna have to do this again, so it's fairer to the community. So I think probably, you know, it's February, we'll probably wait till April. We'll do something around the middle or end of April. We'll schedule this again. We'll do a drop on all of the streets. Incidentally, this is Amber, my constituency assistant. If you call the office, you'll speak to either Amber or Lila, right here. They're big help in my office. They were the ones that distributed the letters to everybody. So we distributed a lot of letters. And so we really want to get people out to get the feedback, because this has been a consistent problem. This is Bruce Clayton. He's of our traffic division. He's the manager for Etobicoke York Transportation Manager. And Bruce has been around for a number of years, so he's seen it all. And he knows that both Summit Crest and LaRose, they've been sort of a perennial problem long before I became city councilor. So what he's going to do is he's going to walk you through a bit of a presentation. And like I said, what we'd like to do is get some feedback from you, and then we're going to have to get feedback again. I really would like to have, 50 or 60 people out, and get everybody talking and thinking about what they want, because these are fairly significant changes that will occur to the roadway. I mean, obviously we want to slow the traffic the best that we can. You also, and Bruce will talk about some of the implications of slowing traffic. The other thing I should mention is that I've told a couple of you, I bought a speed gun, a radar gun. It's a Bushnell. It's actually designed for measuring fastballs, but it's good for cars. So I went out, some chap had me come to his house one morning, and we stood outside and watched the cars on Wincott. And it's a 40, Wincott, it's a 40, and cars were going 45, 48, 52, caught a few doing, over 60, 61, 62, and it's funny, as soon as you stand there, people slow down, even if you're in a suit or a trench coat or whatever. But with that, we called 23 Division, and they came down, and the fellow who I was with, he said he saw the cop out there. He was out there 3 days, nabbing all kinds of people. So I'm more than happy to come out and do that, one day when the weather's decent, on
Well, you can
street.
do it today. You'll find fast people.
Yes.
I was walking the dogs on the ice, and this guy
Right.
in a van was going
Right.
crazy.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
I'm,
nice.
I'll be happy to do that, and then, we can talk to 23 Division and they'll come on. Have you seen them on your street?
No.
You
Not
haven't?
for 20 years.
No, okay. So the way that they have explained it, so we had a lady who lived on the Westway, and she was complaining because that's also like a racetrack, and they went out there and they nabbed a lot of people, but they've explained to us they only go out when a request is made. You can make a request through 311. You can call us and ask us to make the request. 311's the city service, and they'll go out and do that. But they don't do it on a routine basis. They only do it on a complaint-based basis. So I'll let Bruce Clayton take over and talk about the roads here.
Thank you, Councillor. So people here are both from LaRose and Summit Crest?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I have information on both streets. And really, they are considered together. Just the nature of the road, as you know. They're parallel roads. So what you do on one affects the other, and that's why we're treating them together and considering both of them tonight. This is just a map showing the existing controls. The traffic signals at either end of Summit Crest. At the one end, I think it's just off the screen of LaRose at Royal York, and the stop signs in between, as well as the pedestrian crossover on Summit Crest at Norby. So what we did, just a picture of each street showing Summit Crest with the curves in the center line, and LaRose slightly different, no curves with an edge line. And we did some speed counts. So the councillor mentioned about the radar gun. We have two different ways of doing our speed studies. We can use a radar gun, but what we tend to do is put the tubes across the road, and we see those tubes across the road, they're measuring the speed and the volume of cars. So that's the nice thing. We get a 24-hour count, or 48, depending on how long we leave it out there. We get directional flow, we get volume, and we get speed. So these are the most recent studies we've done. We have a big history of speed studies, mostly on the roads, but these are the most recent ones we have. So what it shows here is eastbound and westbound volumes, relatively equal. Speed slightly higher eastbound on both streets, which is interesting. I don't know why, but it is what it
Sorry,
is.
on LaRose, that's east of Royal York, though, right?
towards
That's between
Scarlet?
Scarlet and
I don't think so.
I've
Rockland?
never seen a.
where's
Back
Rockland?
this
Isn't Rockland?
Well, and Crestridge is, yeah, Crestridge, yeah.
Yeah, just right on. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Crestridge is like a crescent.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't even pay.
Yeah, so this is the section between Islington and
Yeah.
Royal York that we did. We do have studies the other side of the road as well. So these are the numbers we came up with. It's a 50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit. Your 85th is 5960 up to 61, which is relatively high compared to a lot of other streets we look at. So, as I say, we've done studies through the years. The volumes have gone up and down. They actually were up fairly high many years ago. They seem to drop a bit, and they seem to have come back up again. So these are the most recent studies we have.
Bruce, sorry to interrupt. You notice the timing of the studies though are done in November, February.
Yeah.
Have you ever done them in the spring and summer?
Yeah.
You have.
We've done it all different times. We avoid the summer where possible. We were criticized because the school's not in. Sometimes it
But you
affects.
still get the high volume of traffic, right?
Yeah, we do. And to be honest, those speeds are showing that
It's still the
motors.
same?
In fact, they're higher than we've had it in other months. So,
Oh, then.
despite the fact that February traditionally wouldn't be a good day to
No,
do it.
I mean, yeah,
Last year it didn't snow that much, so we could get away with it.
right.
Anyways, that's what we got when we did our study. And what we also did was apply the results to the traffic calming warrant. And there's a couple key things we look for in the traffic calming warrant. There's the road conditions to make it appropriate for traffic calming, and there's also the speeds and volumes. Those things are really critical. Before we'll consider warranting traffic calming, we look at these two things. It's the volume and the speed. So on this particular street, we have all the conditions, with a slight exception. Where on the rows, our 85th is 59. However, on Summit Crest, it was 60. The magic number is 10 over the posted limit, which was 50. Although technically it didn't meet, as I mentioned when we first started, we're not considering them together. We wouldn't do one thing on one street and not on the other, with the feeling that it may just divert traffic on another street. So in this case, we're combining the streets, so we're both considering it warranted if residents want to consider traffic calming on their street. When I talked about the 85th percentile, that's the speed that the majority of motorists feel comfortable traveling. In a sense, 85% of the people are traveling below that speed limit. So when you see that 85th to 60, that means 85% of people are driving below 60 and 15% are driving above 60 kilometers an hour. And what I want to emphasize is that's the speed. It's not somebody driving at the 85th percentile is a reasonable improvement in motorists generally. Most of the people here are probably driving on the street from 50 and 60 between the average and the 85th percentile. Once you get over that speed, that's where we consider those motorists are traveling at an excessive speed. So anything over 60 is considered an excessive speed, but it's a number we use in engineering to make a lot of decisions. So that's the critical decision we've made here based on that 85th percentile. So I don't want to get too much into options here tonight. We have been considering chicanes. Your street is, some traffic calming is appropriate and some's not appropriate, in that you have to have certain conditions to make traffic calming appropriate. Chicanes on many streets aren't appropriate. I've shown an example here. What a chicane does, it's not a deflection like a speed hump. It causes cars to have to weave around physical barriers on the road. When your volumes get up around 3,000 cars, 2,500 to 3,000 cars, you have good cross flow. You have cars that come at the same time and intersect each other. So it would mean chicanes would be an option on your street if that's what the community wanted to do. That's something we could support. Other kinds of traffic calming may not be appropriate, such as turning circles or traffic islands in the center of the street, because you have driveway access. You don't have a huge right-of-way to put those kind of things in. But I just want to open it up. The discussion is there are traffic calming is a possibility on your street, and this is an option that we've ran by Toronto Fire, and they're okay with putting it on the street. So it's one of their options that they consider appropriate.
Are you talking about a roundabout as well? Is that what you're there?
Yeah, when I say turning circle, it's
Yeah,
in the
that's
center of
what
the
I was-
intersection, but
Yeah.
not a roundabout is more of a designed on a
Wider
larger. The one up near Lowe's, as an example, that's a proper roundabout. The one on Windermere, if you know that one, those
There's
are
quite a
proper
few in the
roundabouts.
East York area.
East York and Milton has a lot, Waterloo has a lot, but Toronto doesn't have a lot of roundabouts. But your street really wouldn't be appropriate, you just don't have the right-of-way route to build a proper roundabout.
Right.
But this is an option, and it hasn't been done in the city before.
Now, are the chicanes, my grandfather lives near Vaughan in Oakwood, and they put simply big planters. Like, are there different types of chicanes? Or-
Yeah, there's different dimensions too. So the example here is a Toronto example. That's a 2 meter chicane. So they come in 1.5 meters, which we don't put a planter on top. 2 meters, which we put a planter on top with greenery in it, and then you can go larger. Your street's not acceptable to any larger than 2 meters, or you narrow the road too much and fire won't accept it. So those are your options if you would.
Does
if you
it
want to
work?
pursue.
Does it work?
It does, as I say.
In other neighborhoods?
It very much depends on the volume, but you'd have the conditions and the volume on your street to have that good two-way traffic flow. If there's not a lot of volume, somebody may tend to just fly up the middle.
Right.
But if there's a car coming the other way and there's enough good two-way volume, they slow down and they have to weave their way around. So again, throwing it out there as an option on your street.
How many of those would be positioned along?
That's one of my questions.
So the plans back there show a proposal.
Okay.
I think we end up doing
Oh, you have something like
4 sets of 3 per street.
And what would happen as you're moving eastbound on La Rose towards Royal York, people tend to speed up to make the light. So that's my concern.
Yeah.
Along
Are you on
the
La Rose?
street,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're on
Oh,
La Rose.
but as the cars are moving closer to Royal York, that's when they're really speeding through.
Yeah, so we place them at just locations where we have enough room, but it's not carved in stone. There could be more, there could be less. They could be closer to the intersection. You can't be within 30 meters of the intersection, but if you felt it was more appropriate closer, it is a possibility. So that is an option. If you did proceed with traffic calming and there was a support, it starts the ball rolling. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. You still would be polled. An independent poll would be conducted, asking everybody on the street, is this something you want, before anything would ever go. I'm just saying that the green light is here. If it's something tonight or at a subsequent meeting, we felt there was some interest, we could work on it a little bit more and figure out if that's something people wanted us to keep going with.
So are speed bumps not an option? You wouldn't support that?
Well, it's an option in that it's a traffic calming device. Fire department,
They never support it.
they don't.
But
Yeah.
it's irrelevant. They're, I think in that respect, they're kind of irrelevant and they're very misleading because there's speed bumps all over the city.
You're right.
And for the fire truck to have to slow down to navigate over a speed bump, it doesn't cause it to lose any significant amount of time because you're coming in from either Royal York or Islington or Scarlet Road. The furthest distance they have to go to get to a major apartment building, the furthest one away from either of the streets is like 250 yards. So you're talking 2 speed bumps.
Yeah, we
My husband's a firefighter, and we've been dealing with this issue for the last 10, 12 years with Luby. He'd mentioned the speed hump, and she went to the captain. She went to the chief and complained.
She didn't
Because
support
she
it.
didn't
Yeah, she
support
didn't
it.
support
Because she
it.
didn't want them on her
She
street.
never
And
did.
the fire department does not object to the speed humps. They have no issue with the speed humps. However, I don't think I would want it on Summit Crest
okay.
because of I think it'd be more up and down, more noise. Also, it's not good for the cars.
But you know what? It's the only thing that slows
For the
traffic down.
kids.
But so I live
So
at the end of
fast.
La Rose,
Yeah.
close to Islington, and when I put my van on the street, I don't do it often, but when I do, so it's to your point, people have to slow down to get
Mhm, to go
around it,
around.
and there's enough traffic, at least on our street, going both ways, that it does. I like the chicane. I think it looks okay on the street, especially with a planter.
Yeah.
And I've seen it again. My grandfather lives more in the core of the
Yeah.
city, and they had the issue of people cutting through the streets, and I found it has, just anecdotally, I don't have any data to back it up, but I found it helped. I mean, I was looking at your plan. My only comment would be that I don't know how you guys figure out how many per an area, because it's a long stretch from Islington to Russell. At least that's the stretch where I live, and then again Russell to Royal York, which I think is the same stretch on Summit
Yeah.
Crest. Like that's
It
the
is.
only stop signs at Russell for both of us. I personally like it. I hosted a session with Gloria. I think we had 20 people at the time, but she wasn't supportive of any traffic calming. I do think we need some sort of traffic calming.
So,
You know.
I'll just tell you where I come from. So,
Yeah.
so originally I was opposed to traffic calming.
Mhm.
But now I'm of the view that I'm the representative, and if people want it, because some of my other councillor colleagues, they don't want to give it to them. So if people want traffic calming, and it's affecting their street, I think that the city should implement it. It's just a question of getting the right time. So for those of you who arrived late, I've also said that this is really not enough people
Yeah.
for us to come to any kind of determination on how to proceed. So we'll do this again when the weather's better. You're all welcome to come back and offer your opinion, but, you know, I was really hoping to get, 50 or 60 people out tonight, and obviously with the weather. So we'll set up another meeting for April. I don't know if an evening's better or if a Saturday morning would be better. I'm happy to hear your views on what you think might be the best time to get people out. But I am of the view that, I personally like the chicanes. The only thing is about the speed bump. So I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but traffic calming doesn't reduce the volume of traffic, but it is supposed to slow cars down. And it's not only the fire department that raises objections,
Ambulance.
it's EMS.
Yeah.
So know that you're right that the fire department isn't using this as a cut through to get to an emergency at a high rise. But if somebody's had a stroke or a heart attack or whatever, and or if somebody's in the ambulance on the way out of there, the ambulance guys don't like it either. So, but anyway, I'm sort of at the, I'm willing to listen to whatever people want to do, but we need to have a wider discussion with more people.
John, what about the signs where, the
Electronic
traffic that's
ones?
cutting through?
Yeah.
No, but the traffic that, you've got people coming from Eglinton, Kipling, like all through, what's the side street there? Hunting Ridge, and they're all using the sides all through Summercrest, through to Russell, to LaRose. I've seen in the past, and I've seen along, where Kingsway College is, Chestnut Hills area. No left turn between 10 and 6.
Yeah, and so,
Residential,
so I haven't
how
thought of
would
it,
you-
I haven't thought, you could definitely do a no right turn onto Summit Crest and LaRose in the morning from 7 to 9. You could do that, because I don't think any of the residents would be coming northbound on Islington and turning right.
Right.
And similarly, that's pretty much the way the traffic goes in the morning. But, we'd have to.
Speed though, you still have the speed.
No, but
If you
if- no, but
reduce
if
the
you did it-
traffic, you
Yeah.
wouldn't
No,
have
but
the
if you did
volume of
a
vehicles.
no right turn 7 to 9, I think we were just
From
talking
Royal
about that,
York
it's,
and
that could be done, so.
Because they're all avoiding Eglinton, that's the
right.
issue, and with these new, Plant World turning into
Yeah.
condos now,
Yeah.
it's just gonna
I know.
have more
Well, Bruce, we just
stress
did
on
one at
us.
the last community council on
Yep.
Burnport, wasn't it? We just did, we did a
Brennan,
note,
yeah.
Brennan Forest, yeah.
I'm
So-
not impressed with the turnout here either, but hopefully
just
if
the
we
Will
weather.
this also involve the reduction in the speed limit?
Yeah, it won't happen without, they have to happen together, so,
If you go back to all your statistics on the traffic
yeah.
volumes, when you drop the speed limit to 40, what's the,
Impact.
Well, it actually would be 30.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
what you
Okay,
be
but-
considering?
we have a
30.
50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit.
Yeah, so.
So if you look at it at 40, and then compare it to what the average speed is, and the number of cars that are traveling over
Yeah,
50 kilometers an hour,
yeah.
we live on a racetrack.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm saying you need traffic calming, because if you just were to put a 30K speed limit
No
sign
one,
there,
they're still gonna avoid ignore it.
it's not gonna work, you're gonna be disappointed. It might be making some officers up there get people at 29 over and 4 points, but
I think we
It's
agree
not
that
gonna
we
work.
want to speed, we need something to slow the speed down, and yeah, it's gonna be one of the other, whatever it is we agree to as a community. I'd like it to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, so.
Unfortunately, we have to wait again to have another meeting, but it is what it is. But if we can get some options out on the table, and then, everyone
yeah,
listen to what they are,
I think that's where we're at.
kind of move forward.